Hi, my name's Annika Gritton, and I was in a group with Hazel Sagers, Caitlin Hansen, and Michaela Hall. Our presentation is on emotional disturbance, which is a high incidence disability. Emotional disturbance in the classroom can present itself in many ways. An inability to learn that cannot be explained by intellectual, sensory, or health factors can be one, along with an inability to build or maintain satisfactory interpersonal relationships with peers and teachers, inappropriate types of behavior or feelings under normal circumstances, a general pervasive mood of unhappiness or depression, and/or a tendency to develop physical symptoms or fears associated with personal or school problems. It's thought that if a student exhibits these behaviors for a long period of time, whether it's one or multiple, they most likely have some sort of emotional disturbance. There are different types of emotional disturbance, and as you can see by our lovely little caricature over here, it includes both specific diagnoses and specific different symptoms, such as fear or panic. Different types of emotional disturbances can include anxiety disorders, manic depressive disorders, oppositional defiant disorders, and more. Emotional disorder is just an umbrella term that contains all of these. For the purposes of our presentation, we're going to focus more on psychiatric disorders, such as anxiety disorder, bipolar disorder, eating disorders, obsessive compulsive disorder, and psychotic disorders. There are many classroom challenges that can present themselves for students who have problems with emotional disorders. Sometimes they experience low average intelligence. They achieve below grade level in academic achievement. They can show hyperactivity, such as short attention span and impulsiveness, aggression or self-injurious behaviors, such as acting or fighting out, withdrawal, which can include not interacting socially with others, or excessive fear or anxiety. It can also include students who are easily overwhelmed and need to take a break, otherwise they'll not be able to function correctly. Immaturity, inappropriate crying, temper tantrums, poor coping skills, and children with the most serious emotional disturbances may exhibit distorted thinking, excessive anxiety, bizarre motor acts, and abnormal mood swings. There are several things that can be done to help in the classroom. Students are generally taught in general education classrooms, but sometimes in severe cases, they're taught in special education cluster units, self-contained programs, or separate schools. It just really depends on the individual student, what their needs are, what their background is, and what the family, the student, and the school think is best for them. Tips for teachers include keeping class rules and activities simple and clear, rewarding positive behavior, allowing for mini breaks, being fair for all students, and using motivational strategies to keep students engaged. There's a system called Observe, Modify, and Follow Up, which teachers can also use. Observing includes noticing what types of emotional behaviors and disturbances are going on in the classroom, when those are going on the most often, what circumstances seem to be triggering these behaviors the most, and how are different areas of your classroom utilized physically. Modify can include physically changing your classroom setup, making sure that there's a difference between where individual and group activities are going on, making sure students are in a setting where they won't be easily distracted, and it can also include making sure that your walkways are clear. On top of modifying, the teachers can also work with students to make sure that their curriculum works for them and that they have everything they need to succeed. Then you follow up, which includes going through the different changes you've made both physically in the classroom and possibly curriculum-wise with the student, and making sure that you're using these modifications correctly and consistently, making sure they're being used how they intended, and checking in with students and possibly parents to make sure that everything seems to be helping. Advancements in education of those with emotional disorders include the use of positive reinforcement rather than punishment, the use of technology to support those with emotional disorders, self-monitoring skills taught to students, availability of psychiatrists and therapists through schools, support groups in some cases, and medication can be recommended. Although schools can't prescribe medication to students, the students can go and get help from their doctor or psychiatrist to see if they have help. And also, it's really important to make sure that they have access to therapists, whether that's in school or outside of school. Other things that have helped a lot with the use of emotional disturbances has been the implementation of 504 plans and even IEPs. These really let students be able to get the help that they need when it comes to accommodations and making sure that they get the best type of education that's available to them. Well, that's the end of our presentation, and thank you so much for watching. I hope this really helped you understand more about emotional disorders, how they can affect the classroom, and what can be done to help them. Bye!